Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the Phil Carew Show 2.0, Season 2, Episode 23. I have a very special guest, Mark Haldor, actor, filmmaker, and model. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
You're most welcome. It's a real honour. Now, we've got some treat sort of goodies or questions here, Mark, and no doubt you'd probably looked at a few, what I sent over to you, and you've probably had a bit of a giggle and a laugh to yourself and thought, hang on, actually, there's a few quite interesting ones here, but we're going to have a bit of fun today. In regards to filmmaking. Now, I'm going to sort of have a bit of fun here because usually I'm not going to be the sort of more formal guy where I'd say, "Oh, when did you start modeling, and how did when was you really young as an actor?" No, I'm going to throw it out there and be completely different and be random. Now, the best part about this is, it gives you a chance to say, "Well, actually." That's a quite good question, actually. I might not have been ever asked that. So I'm going to sort of dabble in a little bit, dig it there. In regards to filmmaking, what made you feel that would start, making films or filmmaking yourself? Because like in regards to like being an actor and being a model, it must be different on being on the opposite side of the lens.
Yeah, I don't think there was any real big plan to do it. I think it was organic, the process. So my background is I was a graphic designer. So I was always
Wow.
having to do such things where I was doing like video and photography for certain campaigns. And then when I decided to start modeling, I didn't. I fell into it, is the truth. And I started to work with people in that capacity, the other
Of
side of the
course.
land. And with modeling, there is an overlap into acting because you're playing characters to a degree. And
Yes.
then I started finding myself, modeling was becoming more of an acting thing. And I'd always wanted to act since I was young and never had the confidence or really pursued it. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to give this a go. And the thing I found through doing the acting, and obviously my background as a model and a graphic designer, is I like to have an input creatively. And so the
Yes.
filmmaking allows me to do that because as an actor, you're telling someone else's story, whereas a filmmaker, you're the one, you've got all these elements like editing and direction and set design to tell the story as well. And I like having that creative input because, if you say a line in a certain way or, you chop a scene a certain way, it gives a different story. So that's why I got interested in filmmaking. And the other part of it was I did a lot of videos for bands, music videos. So
Goodness.
yeah, so it kind of went hand in hand, really, that I was always telling a story in some way. I don't think I could choose what side of the camera I prefer, to be honest. I like both. I couldn't see me not doing both.
God, that's pretty interesting because sometimes you get a feel for maybe just not swayed to one side to the other, but I think it's good to have a bit of both. As a variety, because then at least you can see it from both perspectives. In regards to being in front of the lens and behind. Now, and also as an actor, how was it in terms of being involved in like in particular scenes where you'd have to be, you, I've discussed this, but even off the camera, and other people as well that I've spoken to before you, and even like yourself, um, in regards to like not trying to be too typecasted, because I know it's easily fallen into a position where they can perceive you by just features, looks, shape, and there's a lot of hidden surprises that people don't realize until you actually say something, you do something, and that could be an extra skill. It could be even, you might even surprise someone where you think, well, actually, I can do stunts as well, one day, and I'll be like, wow, Mark. You see like the Arnies and the Tom Cruises and people like that, and and Brad Pitt, where they all end up trying to do these extra things. But what people don't understand is that you may possibly be one of those people that involved where you're actually participating in that other role, where they may not see your face completely, and you might be using that role, where they think, oh, hang on a minute, was that really Mark? Well, yeah, that was me. That wasn't the other guy. Or when they actually see you for face value, when they do a second take, they realize it's actually you after all. Because you do get people where they have doubles, don't they? And you don't. Sometimes you get such a good double, you don't know either way.
Yeah, definitely.
In the position that you've been in, have you ever been mistaken for being somebody else sometimes? When you've been out and they're like, oh, yeah, you must be like, I thought, well, no.
Not mistake. I get told I look like the most obvious person everyone will know, but yeah, no, not really mistaken. I can hear a
Oh,
feedback.
oh, is that better?
Yeah.
Ah. Oh, thank you for that. Everyone there, the viewers or even listeners, and there, this is great about having the lives as well. You can sort of get a gist of what's going on, and it's real, and it's not all pre-recorded. There's certain things that people hear and don't hear on the lives. In the other sort of areas of other than just modeling, filming, and acting, I've noticed that you've got a great hobby or even an interest in music. Could you sort of delve in a little bit in regards of your interest there on the music? I've noticed you're a big fan. I like myself.
Yes, I do love music, always have. And I would say probably the last few years my taste has varied even more. I think when I was younger, I just listened to rock music, just rock music, and I still do, and rock and punk and pop. But I've started to listen to artists I never would have looked at twice before. So I love collecting vinyl records. There's just something about it that feeds the soul, I think. And I'm always going to concerts when I can. So I went to see Wednesday 13 on Friday night, which
Oh,
was
wow.
amazing. Yeah, so I'd seen him previously a number of years back, so it was good to see him again. And he very kindly signed a bunch of records for me. So that was nice. And I think also, as I mentioned, because I work with bands, do you remember Fuzzbox? I used to work with Vix from Fuzzbox.
Goodness.
Ginger from the Wild Hearts.
Yes.
Number of different people over the years. So I love being around those type of people that are creative. And the fact that I love their music as well, and in some places I actually get to work with them and create videos and stuff. It's great. So yeah.
You're full of surprises, Mark. This is what I love about it. You see, like a lot of people, they don't. It's not about just what everyone sees, in front of the camera of what other people do, like yourself, behind the camera and in your own time. We like to see sort of people like yourself, where you're relaxing, you're doing your own thing, and I think sometimes also it sort of gives people a bit more perspective in life, and like the actual sort of the motivational sort of part as well, which I was really impressed about. It's in terms of like the fitness side of things, health and fitness, in regards to like lockdown. You mentioned, I've noticed that when you were doing something during lockdown and even after, what was your motivation, in there? Because I know it must have been really hard, because a lot of people, when you get into a position where you've been in a particular shape, it's not for roles, but your own sort of self-preservation, as yourself and your own self-identity, isn't it? And
Well, this is it. It's weight training and diet's a way of life for me for as long as I can remember. I think with that sort of thing though, life can get in the way sometimes, particularly being freelance. When I was in a full-time job, had more of a routine and structure. And I was like, no, I'll always make time for the gym. But definitely circumstances changed and I struggled at points. I was never in awful shape. I've never really let myself go. But there's moments in your life where you're at your best, and it kind of goes like that. But yeah, when lockdown happened, it was taken away. And kudos to anyone who managed to keep up their training during lockdown, because I couldn't. I tried, but not being able to escape that environment was very suffocating. There was no outside stimulation. I couldn't train to the degree I was used to. I think we all started drinking and eating more through boredom and laziness.
Yes.
And bit by bit, this compounds. And for me, whilst there's obviously the obvious physical benefits, the big thing for the gym for me was mental health. And that's where I suffered. Now, the first lockdown, I think it was a new thing we were all experiencing. So I think there was a degree of more understanding that, okay, you know, this has got to be done and so on. I mean, I feel different now, but at the time that was our mindset. So losing it felt okay. It's just a necessary juncture at this point. So when I got out of lockdown for the first time, I was so ready and raring to go that I just hit it so hard. And I was training twice a day for like 3 months, and I got back in shape better than I'd probably ever been. And then they did a second lockdown for a month, which was okay. It's a month. I can do that. I just cruised. And then when they did that third lockdown, my head just went and my body followed. And it was, I think, from the December through till the April, which felt like forever. And when I got out, I didn't have the mental strength to do it again. I was like, I cannot. And the biggest thing is I don't trust the government, not one bit. And they'd already lied to us countless times. So I was like, I'm not going to put myself through this and crucify myself for them to do it to me again.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I focused on work instead, which was a good move, but I had to wait till I was mentally prepared to do it. And then at the end of last year, after 18 months, and obviously the world settling down again, and I was like, right, now's the time. And in 14 weeks, I've smashed it, and I'm back to where I was. So, yeah.
Goodness me, that must have taken a lot, you know, from being, you know, it must be, it must have be emotionally and psychologically draining, you know, because, you know, I've discussed this with a few number of people where there'd be times where you felt like you were imprisoned, you know, in lockdown. You know, it just wasn't normal to have even to go outside, you know. And the moment when everything was lifted, where people could actually meet, as in even just to walk outdoors, it was a relief. You know, it was that sense of freedom had been taken away from you.
I think they caused more deaths by locking people down than they saved. I think it was a disgusting measure that never should have been implemented.
Yeah,
And
well, this is
sadly,
it,
a lot
you
of
know.
people didn't live to see the other side of it. They committed suicide, but no one seems to care about that.
That's very, very true, because, you know, when it comes to a lot of things that have happened, you know, even during and after, you know, there's even people with other health conditions, you know, and conditions where
Oh,
it
the
affects their general behavior, doesn't it?
yeah, the
Over across the
knock-ons have
board.
been catastrophic. You know, misdiagnoses, mistreatments, and for what? No.
Well, this is it, you know, it's, and we're glad you're here, Mark, you know, because you know, we managed to see sort of more of your work, you know, and even sort of you sharing your little journey of things from your acting and filmmaking, your modeling. Now, your journey in terms of acting, how did it start? Was it a very young, or did you sort of think, well, hang on a moment, like you mentioned, the modeling, you know, works hand in hand. Which came first? Was it the modeling, or was it the acting first?
Well, when I was, God, probably at primary school, I always remember watching TV programs, couldn't tell you what now, but I always liked the idea of being on TV and doing that. And I think it was a very different world back then, at least in my head, that it seemed unobtainable. You know, I didn't know the first thing about it. It was just like, oh, that'd be cool. So I think that's as far as my thought process went with it. And also, I think being so young and naive, I just went, well, I can't act. Like, I can't sing, you know. And that was it. It was just but I was always very artistic. So I went down the graphics route. And I don't think it was till later, well, it wasn't till later in life, in my 20s, where I entered a bodybuilding competition. Now, I'd got in incredible shape, and someone said, "Why don't you enter a competition?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know about that." But I thought, do you know what? Go on, face your fears. And there's nothing like standing on stage in your pants in front of a mass room of people to do that. And that gave me
Yeah.
a lot of confidence that, oh, I achieved that. You know, I did it. And then in turn, because I was in such good shape, I started modeling. And I remember once actually, Andy Peters phoned me up because he was interested in working with me, my look. And he went, "You're just too big." Because you're in amazing shape, but you're too big. Because he had a modeling agency. And I was like, okay. Andy Peters just phoned up and dissed me. But
Too big. Oh, goodness, too big.
was,
What is too big, Mark? You know.
I'm not model like, and I was like, oh, fair enough. He was lovely,
Wow.
but it was quite amusing. I remember that.
Do you know there was a great transformation from him in these from his younger years to now? He's in good shape, Andy
Yeah,
Peters.
he's tough, yeah. But
I'm proud of him. I'm like, wow, you know, the terrific. Oh, hello, Shaquille. Get-
yeah,
There you
good.
go. Hello, Shaquille. Oh, you know, freedom of speech. You know,
What we got left of it?
oh yeah, what we have at the moment. You know, we'll be paying for oxygen next, won't we? You know, and
Yeah.
everything else along with it. Getting charged by the second, you know, to breathe. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, in regards to that as well, I'm actually pretty intrigued even more now. You know, you've dabbled in so many different areas of things of like other than just acting, and that you know you got a great interest in that. Do you actually play an instrument just to sort of check to see if anyone would be interested in sort of seeing if you sing in the
Well,
shower
I
or have a little
bought,
dance?
I bought a guitar this year because I'd
Brilliant.
always learn. I tried when I was younger and stopped. And I'm not going to lie, I've been a bit slack the last couple of weeks, but I was learning the chords. Ginger from the Wild Hearts has been helping me. He told me, you know, he found me a guitar that he says, buy one of these, this will suit your needs. And yeah, he's been sending me chords through to learn. So yeah, cool.
God, you're lucky.
I know,
Goodness
right?
me, like you don't get that offer every day. You know, you get some people they're like, well, you know, you have to pay this amount on there, but when you get somebody like that, oh,
I
I
think
can't really turn that off now.
I've been helping him with his training. He's been helping me learn guitar. So
There you go. It was all hand in hand, isn't it? Really, you're helping each other.
we are.
Right on the actual. The other question is, oh, okay. What do you love doing off the screen in your spare time?
Oh, there's a lot of things. I mean, my passion, as I've mentioned, is music. I love collecting vinyls. I love tracking down rare pieces, paying well over the odds for some of them. I love picking up bargains. But I
Ooh.
like collecting my vinyls. Off the back of that, I love going to gigs. Sometimes you know, the artists very kindly sign a few of my records for me. I've had a few signed, like Paul Cook from the Sex Pistols the other week, and Wednesday and Ginger and so on. So that's always nice. So I'm building a collection I'm very proud of, and it's a little challenge to myself, you know. And then outside of music, I obviously love movies, but I think the big thing is for me with a movie, because I'm so ingrained in that industry,
Yes.
I can rarely watch a film purely for enjoyment. When I can, it's great escapism for me. But usually I'm like, oh, the casting or the set design or the story or the direction. I'm just analyzing everything. And if a film can stop me from doing that, that's great. And then the other thing I love is comedy. I love stand-up comedy. I've been to see a number of people over the years. I most recently saw Joanne McNally, who I discovered a couple of years ago, and we've spoken a few times, and she's great. She's very funny. I remember once I went to one, it was during the lockdown, she was doing a gig, and I'd got tickets. It was for warm-ups. I think she's testing a material or something. And I went and got there. I think she was due to start at 7 or something. And I got there and they let us in early. I was like, right. And they're like, yep, straight through to the next room, blah, blah, blah. Fine. So I'm watching the show and someone comes on, a comedian never heard of. I was like, oh, I didn't know there was someone else. I'm fine. And then she's on and the time's running past where I thought Joanne would be on by now. Anyway, she leaves. I'm thinking, oh, okay. Lights come on. Everyone starts leaving. I'm like, what? I ask, I'm like, is Joanne McNally on? And they're like, it's finished in here, mate. I'm like, oh. And they went, oh, there's another one on downstairs. They'd sent me to the wrong room. So I'd missed half her show. So I walked in and they got all the time, because of the COVID, they got all these plastic sheetings up in between the rows, which was bizarre. But there was still seats at the front. So I walked in and no one like sitting on the front row, but I'm quite ballsy. I went in, sat down, and she just stopped and looked at me. And she went, oh, it's only Mark, and carried on.
Oh, it's only Mark. I like that's hilarious.
Like, what time to call this? And then she went, oh, it's only Mark, it's fine. And she carried on. I was like,
oh, that's brilliant. That when you mentioned comedy, is there many roles that you would sort of like, if you had the opportunity, who would you play, you know, and what type of role would it be if you had a choice? Who would you have with you?
My dream job is, have you seen Not Going Out with Lee Mack TV series?
Yes.
Now, if I could be on a show like that, or have a show like that, where you go to work every day, make people laugh and have a laugh, that for me would be my dream role. So I couldn't tell you a specific role, but the format of a TV show. Someone like Ricky Gervais, you know, Afterlife, or Lee Mack's Not Going Out, and stuff. If I could work on a show like that, I suppose the American equivalent was Friends. That would be my dream job, for sure. For sure.
I've never had a time to remember where I could not laugh. I've always, the moment I put Lee Mack on, it's I'm speechless. Even my partner, she laughed. She said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Watch this." And even she started laughing. I said, "I told you it was good, didn't I?" And there was the one of my favorite shows is when they have to have a story laid out to the opposition, the other team, and they have to figure out whether if they're lying or not.
Oh yes, I've seen that. I've seen it. It's very good.
That is one of my favorites, because when they do it, sometimes when they're talking, Lee Mack's a brilliant one for it. When he actually comes back with the puns, he comes back with the pun, because the punchline is when they realise what he means. He's like, "Oh yeah. It was a catalogue." When they said the punchline was a catalogue, because if you put the cat and you put it on the shelf, and I thought, Lee, you're absolutely magnificent, mate. You know, complete comical genius, and the way he sort of comes out and the words and everything, and all the other people, that they get involved, because I think it surprises them. It throws
Mm,
them off guard. It's like yourself. I think this is the best thing about it, when you get people like yourself and Lee Mack and everyone else, when you have all of you in the same room
mm.
and you know that your humor is on the same page, the impact of the audience is absolutely intense. Not in a bad way, but it's ecstatic, because you just think, how many people do you know these days where you can't not have a laugh? You got to be able to have that kind of level of sense of humor, and
Yeah,
and
and I
and it'd be pretty sad if you wouldn't be able to, because it goes to show, like, even with acting, you've probably known this as well as I do. When you act in a particular way, and if you put comedy involved in it, it
it
I just
breaks
love.
barriers. It
Yes,
brings people together,
it
and
does.
I feel sorry for comedians now because I think they're walking such a tightrope. Because what was always good humour before is now being branded as it's going to offend someone somewhere.
Yes.
Uh, and as Ricky Gervais rightly says, you have every right to be offended, and I have absolutely every right not to give a fuck. And it's true. Comedy should bring people together. We shouldn't be dividing people further.
No. Well, I think, was you there at the time when he actually, was it live on the speech that he made, when it opened everyone's eyes, and even those that kind of knew who he is
Mm.
and for what he does, I think it even made it even funnier when he said it to those that least expected it.
Oh yeah.
The,
Involved.
the awakening sort of happened, and I thought, well, you guys, it's all right. You expect the awards, but what about these other ladies and gents that don't expect it, and they get it, and they're all right with it, but they don't get enough recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And then it made people realize. You think, oh my goodness, he just opened a can of worms here. He's the only he's got balls of steel.
Not
you know,
many could say what he said and get away with it. He has a knack. He is a genius. No question. And I think he doesn't care. He literally doesn't care. Fair play to him.
Well, the thing is, as well, is he speaks out for most people out there that would say, well, actually, we were all thinking on the same thing. We were thinking the same thing, but you just said it for us.
Mm. Well, he'll say it either way. He'll say it without saying it sometimes, and it's genius.
This is what I love about it, because I've been a fan of his, from The Office, and
Mm.
all the other different things that he's done, and it makes you realize, even the one about the invention of lying, where he was there, and my partner and we never, when we first watched it, I thought, this is brilliant, because you see in a different role of someone that, where he's actually saying different things, but the plot of it is actually brilliant, because even when you're seeing something of hard times, it's not about not making sure that the person's not worried about it, but the way he portrayed that character, was brilliant, because you do get a lot of people where, it's a method acting as well, being able to have that kind of experience where you can pretend to be not just yourself, a little bit. You have a little bit. I'm sure there's probably a tiny fraction of yourself in it that people are not aware of, and then you kind of streamline it into a way where you can make it its own, because it's quite rare to get that, like with yourself, you do get people where they'll go, oh, he or she's trying to act like that. I went, no, when other people watch you and they know you for who you are, they'll go, wow, they played that really well, and then you made that character your own, because people can see it. Most people can see that, and it's hard to also do the opposite. When you've got a character where they're in a position where their character is playing another character, as if they're a film within a film, or the opposite way around in reverse. It's funny.
Mine is Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. I'm the guy who played a guy playing another guy.
I couldn't stop laughing. That bit when he says, "You people." What do you mean, you people? I just couldn't stop laughing. And the one with Jack Black, Jack Black's a great one as well. When I must say there was one particular guy between the two, because I know the audience probably not aware of this, but um, Jack Black and Dwayne the Rock Johnson with Kevin Hart. Now, when they're together, I've seen footage of this, and
Jumanji.
yes,
Yeah.
that's it. When they were on the set, I think there was an interview when he can actually speak just like the Rock, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Jack Black. It's like, yeah, you can just wake up, pick up a can. It's hard looking like this. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's just the way he did it. It's so comical, and the way the Rock sort of reacted was classic, because he thought, oh my goodness, he's actually saying the things that I would say without having to sort of look in a particular way. It's just the way he sounded and the way he portrayed it. And in this sort of position, like if you were to sort of go into sort of a comedy or any sort of other film, would you mind being alongside like the Rock, or like himself, where you both got sort of great physiques, and there, but where you'd have a little bit of comedy dabbled in, because there's always action, isn't there? But when you add in the comedy, like you mentioned before, I think it'd be quite an experience to have.
And I think they all lean into it a bit, and playing yourself up, I think, is key. Don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, I really admire Chris Hemsworth, because I think he's carved that way for himself a bit now.
Yes.
Moved more into the comedy side, and it really works for him. Perhaps not so much Love and Thunder. It was a bit too far, but Ragnarok and stuff, really good. So, yeah.
What would you say is one of the sort of challenges on sort of particular roles and scenes, because there must be times when it can get quite tiresome. What's the most amount of takes that you've ever had to go through to try and get a particular scene in a film sort of right? Because there must be quite a lot of times when you think, freaking heck, this is like cut 258.
I think, to be honest, I've worked on a lot of independent stuff, so they don't tend to overly do takes anyway. So 2 or 3 takes. And then on main movies and stuff, which I've had very small involvements in, they will do it till they get it right, and they've got to shoot multiple angles and so on. So you could be there all afternoon doing one scene. Do you know what I mean? How many takes it is in the end, I've no idea, but the coverage they get. Whereas on an independent set, you probably shoot half the film in a day. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's such a rapid difference. But yeah, I mean, me personally, I think for the different angles and a few different takes, probably 4 or 5 takes. Yeah. The other thing is, though, if you're in like a group scene, say there's 4 of you in a group, you've got your wide, you might have a close up on 2 of you that are talking, then you've got the single shots from everyone. So it's just a process of the coverage, really. So you are sometimes, I say, you're acting the scene, you're talking, you're responding, but you're not even on camera. So yes, you've got to do your performance, but it's not actually it's not your take. So yeah.
Oh goodness me! Do you have a favorite meal?
Yes, probably. I do like pizza, which I had last night, actually. Vegan pizza. So I'm vegan. I'm surprised I didn't tell you in the first 2 seconds of meeting you. For that. Other than that, I've just had it, actually, and this is like a healthy meal. So vegan's like my cheat meal. Not that it's that bad, but I do like kind of mock meat strips with noodles and vegan cheese. Oh, so good. So yeah, they're probably my meals.
Wow. So what's the duration? How long have you've actually been a vegan for?
So I went vegan at the beginning of 2017. So what's that? 18, 19. So I'm on year 6.
Goodness, wow. So what have you seen the sort of initial changes? You know, has there been like phases of that where you've had to get used to a particular type of diet, you know, that fits around what you're doing? Because you know there's certain things where have you found out, you know, or figured out something where you thought, well, actually, when I ate this, you know, it didn't feel quite right anymore. You know, I'm more drawn to this, and was your taste buds, you know,
It's
changing?
weird. So I never thought I'd go vegetarian, let alone vegan. But I was in Australia and I'd been in London the years previous, and I was just so bored with my diet. I was eating chicken every day and fish here and there, and I was just bored. And I found myself eating my carbs and going, oh, I've got to eat this chicken, and not really wanting it. So I thought, I want to try something different. And I knew people that were vegan and vegetarian and ethically. See, I can't do anything if it doesn't make sense to me. So I'd spent quite a bit of time asking questions and trying to get my head around the whole why are people vegan thing. And I thought, well, I'm going to give it a go. And when I looked into it, I thought, okay, do I do vegetarianism or veganism? And I was like, well, what's the difference? And I looked at vegetarianism and went, so basically, I'm allowed to harm these animals, but if I'm vegan, I harm no animals. And I'm like, well, that makes more sense to me than that straight away. Why would I be selective who I harm? So, like, vegetarianism is off the table for me. So I thought, with veganism now, I can't do this if I don't want to do it. It cannot be a chore to me. So I was like, I'm going to give it 1 week. Now, if I was craving something, I was like, right, I'm going to let myself have it because I need to move past that naturally. And secondly, if I make mistakes, which I'm most likely going to, I can't beat myself up, just learn from it. And I did make mistakes. I bought corn thinking, I've done a great thing here. No, it's got egg in it. I was like, okay, so we went by corn again. And I did the first week and I was like, I really don't want to eat chicken next week. I was like, okay, we'll do another week. We'll do 2 weeks. Long story short, it became a month, became 2 months, became 3 months. During that time, I had a couple of cravings. I was craving sushi. So I was like, right, today I'm going to go and have some sushi. And went on to one of the train things that comes around, picked off the usual suspect salmon and prawn, which used to be my favourites. And I went, okay, not that fussed. And I picked some of the other options, and they were vegan ones, tofu. And I was like, oh, hello, this is nicer. So I left going, yeah, not really bothered about that anymore. I can eat vegan sushi, that's fine. And then I walked out, and I think this was the clincher for me, really. There's an ice cream store opposite. And it's like, I was like, okay, it's your cheat day. Have the ice cream. You've had sushi.
Nice.
So I walked across and all these flavors, like 30 something flavors. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, can I try a bit of that and that and that? And she tried them. I was like, right, we're going to have those 3 flavors. And then the guilt kicked in. The guilt kicked in. And I went, oh, I don't suppose any of these are vegan, are they? And she went, oh, they're all vegan. It's coconut based. I went, you're joking. And it was hands down the best ice cream I'd ever had. This is in Australia. And I was with my friends later that night. And I guess you've got to come and try this ice cream. And he went, he goes, hands down, he goes, that's amazing ice cream, but I'm still not going vegan. I was like, fair enough. But yeah, so once I realized that I didn't miss any of it, I was like, this is a no-brainer for me. And then my last memory of not eating vegan was my flight home. I'd booked it 3 months previous before I was vegan, you know. So I was flying home 3 months later, and my meals were coming. I was 17 hours into the flight. I had no food with me, and they bringing stuff around. I was like, I've got to eat. I was like, okay, you're not on British soil. Have this just because you have to eat, and then you'll be vegan again when you land. So they brought around this like minced beef cheese little wrap thing. It's only about that big. So a bit into that, and I've never felt so sick in my life. I just hot sweats. I went nauseous, and all I remember thinking was, I wish I was still hungry because I feel atrocious now, and I didn't eat the rest of it. I was like, I can't eat this. And my palate had just changed, and now I'm very vigilant. sometimes you pick stuff up, you make a mistake because in one flavour it's vegan, then you pick up the flavour and it's got milk in it, and as soon as you taste it, you're like, no. And I've thrown stuff away. I'm like, nah, not having that. So yeah.
Wow. Have you ever, did you ever notice sort of initial changes of certain stuff? Because I've, off the cuff, I've noticed that when you change a certain part of your diet or something that you haven't tried before, or even something else that you put in your mouth, your body doesn't accept it. It's really odd, isn't it? Because like I've had something where I've gone into like a coffee shop, and the taste of the coffee is totally different, and when I had oat milk and soya, my taste buds totally changed. Now, I'm more savory. Are you more savory now than you were a sweet tooth?
Predominantly, I have my sweet moments, but predominantly I would choose savoury. And it's funny, when I first went vegan, I remember messaging my ex-wife because she was vegan, and I went, "What? I've got a lot of flatulence. What's this about?" She goes, "Oh, it passes after about a week." So I was like, "Oh, okay," and it did. And my energy went up, but I was hungry. And she goes, "Well, you're eating less without realizing, so you need to up your diet." So I had to make conscious choices there. And like everything, with regards to my training, I had to learn. And the basic principles were, okay, I need carbs and protein. Well, I can get that from vegan food. There's protein in plants. And so once I worked it out, it's like, this is easy. It's just learning. It's just wanting to learn. So, you can have an appalling vegan diet. You can have an appalling, normal diet, as people consider it, or you can have a great normal diet and a great vegan diet. I think the difference with the veganism is it's not just a diet, it's a way of life. And ethically, to feel at peace with yourself that you're not consciously contributing to another species harm, you just feel at peace with yourself. Don't get me wrong, we're not perfect. There's things we can't do a lot about, but it's about making as many changes as you can.
Goodness, yeah, it's great because sometimes I spoke to my partner about this before. You don't know. There's certain people falling into that category of where their lifestyle has changed. The things that they used to have, they actually become what they least expect. Because of their own personal health. And then obviously, if it comes to down your own personal preference of how you treat yourself, and your own health, then if there's sort of drastic changes have been made and it's made it, a lot better, 10 times better than you were before, not just energy wise, but overall, it must make a difference, because I think personal choices, a lot of the times, it's, I've noticed, I respect that, with people that I've noticed that they've changed their own dietary sort of regime to fit not just around their lifestyle, but also their own personal health, because there are certain things that I've known myself and even other people that have been eating certain things and they've seen a lot of changes. Now, each their own. I respect what you do and everyone else and that on there, but I think if there is something there in your own health and it's done, the world of good to you, or hats off to you, because you're looking after yourself, aren't you? And also your own principles of what you're eating, because obviously, you're sticking to what you believe in, and it's doing you the world of good as well. So it's overall across the board, you're looking after yourself, and also your key principles of where the food comes from as well.
Well, in the 6 years since I've been vegan, I can't remember when I've been ill. I used to be ill, once a year, like most people, but I'm always good, but yeah, I think the big thing as well, we don't often ask ourselves why. We don't ask ourselves questions, and I started to, and what I learned was there's no real good answer. So I decided to make changes, and I do. I feel better for it mentally.
Good for you, Mark. And it's if it's made sort of positive changes, why not? If you've added to something, to your life, if it's adding to your life and it's helping you,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
not? It's you've obviously found something there that's worked for you and helped you health wise, and
Mm,
made positive changes in your life, because obviously the way you think, the way your energy is as well, and even like your overall health, because you mentioned the last time you hadn't been that ill, and since your diet change, your overall health has sort of shot through the roof, where it's become
mm,
like your, what's the best way of putting it, you're like your new superpower, where you feel super, because of it,
mm.
and you feel even a lot, no doubt you probably felt a lot stronger as well.
Yeah, I feel great, and you know, to know I'm not causing harm, and I can feel this good. There's no victim. It's nice. Yeah.
What's the funniest memory that you can remember that you've had?
um. Oh, it's always these questions that stump you. I suppose when I did Celebrity Juice, that was amusing because I ended up flashing Danny Dyer. It's out there. It's out there. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that's funny. I love that.
And not his daughter.
Oh, his reaction of that. Oh my goodness.
Oh, he played it up brilliantly. It's a classic clip now, but yeah, it was funny. And Keith Lemon, I was stood at the end of the show covering myself, and he tried to shake my hand. He tried to get me to move my hands. I was like, no, no.
Trying to get you to move your hand when you're like, no, not working.
I will say this though, because obviously they pixelate it. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think they could have pixelated it any worse. It was like, doesn't leave a lot to the imagination, lads. Good God.
Oh my goodness, Mark. I love that.
Yeah.
What
So,
powers would you have if given the choice of using them, and what would you use them for?
ooh, I thought about this earlier when you sent it over, and I think invisibility,
Ooh.
because I would like to get in all the rooms they don't want us to get in and hear what's really being said.
Mm,
Mm. And
pretty
then
juicy stuff.
expose expose the elites and the governments.
Hey, you
Mm.
sound like a super spy, Mark. You're going to be the next James Bond. You should have gone for it. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's brilliant.
Funny note, actually. I was almost Daniel Craig's body double for Skyfall. I got down to the last two. Yeah,
Oh, that was close.
very
Are
close.
you as smart as you? Well, I can see that you're casual there, but are you behind closed doors or even outdoors? Either way, are you? Would you say more smart casual person, or are you a smart formal person?
Smart casual all day long. Yeah. I'm
Oh,
casual
brilliant.
casual.
Well, you got to be comfortable, haven't you? You don't want to be going around looking like as if you're in the office all day.
You dress for the occasion.
Exactly. Hmm.
If I'm going to a formal event, I'll wear formal wear. But generally speaking, smart casual.
Ah. Do you have a favourite song?
So many. I think my favourite song's probably Anthem by the Wild Hearts. That song's just always stuck with me. Um,
Ah.
and if you listen to the studio version and the live version, they're quite different in their own way, because the studio version's through this wall of white noise. It's quite industrial sounding, whereas the
Yes.
live version hasn't got that, and it's more poppy and upbeat, and it's very cool. It's a very cool song. Um, there's another song, actually. I heard it live Friday night. I haven't heard it in years. By the Murder Dolls, because Wednesday performed it. It's called Nowhere, and right now I think that's my earworm. Right now, yeah.
Oh.
Mm.
If you were to be an animal, what would you be?
So I love monkeys. But probably wouldn't be a monkey, but I do love monkeys. Probably a lion. I think that's kind of reflective of my main pair and
Yeah.
my, I don't know, just my approach. Although lions aren't vegan, so
That'd be interesting. A vegan lion.
I know,
Oh, I'm not going to eat that carcass today. I'm going to go in there and go over to there. I think that would like mess up the whole food chain for him, wouldn't it?
maybe I wouldn't make a very good lion. Maybe I should be a monkey.
Can you imagine a bunch of lions, like a group of lions, like thinking, "What the heck's happened to him?" Oh, I'm just going to go and chew on some bamboo shoots today. I think, are you sure you're in the right group? And you're like, yeah. The panda comes along and says, no, Mark, you're in the wrong group, mate.
Yeah, I like to.
Oh dear. Okay, what dinosaur would you be?
Oh, I think my initial go-to was T-Rex, but I think, and I don't know the name of it, one of the vegan ones, the herbivores, whatever they are. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my goodness, myself. I like I don't know why before I was a bit sort of apprehensive to say it, but for some reason, because I like flight, pterodactyl.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, now you say that as a superpower, that would have been awesome, but invisibility is still the one.
I'm liking these. All right, if there was anything you could change or make better with a time machine, what would it be?
Oh, I had so many thoughts about this one. So I think on a personal level, I would learn to have believed in myself and invested in myself a lot sooner on than I did, because it would have been interesting to see which way my life went. On a grander scale, I find it more difficult to answer because I believe things happen for a reason, and it's like the butterfly effect. So if you change one thing, what are you bringing into reality, you know? However, that said, I think if we could have avoided something like 9/11,
Yes.
at least by saving the people, if nothing else, with a forewarning, that would have been something. So, like, if there's a big disaster that could be avoided and it wasn't going to cause future issues, definitely something like that.
God, that could be amazing. Can you imagine if, or yourself, being able to control that? That would be great.
Yeah. So I like Doctor Who, and I like the approach of him. He travels and he'll help, but there's certain things he can't change because they have to happen. And
That's true.
In a conflict to live with, that you want to do all this good, but you can't. And there was one episode particularly that really touched on that, where he was like, I don't care, I'm going to do this. And then the person took it into their own hands and it rewrote history slightly, but it put it right because she took that power back from him. And I do love stuff like that. And I think it's very true when you ask that question, that you've got to be careful. It's like the film The Butterfly Effect as well, with Ashton Kutcher, you know.
Yeah, no, that's great, because certain things that when you get something taken away that way, where you feel that you're the one being in control, but someone else is aware, that rather than you feeling that you're bearing all of that responsibility yourself, someone else sort of comes out from nowhere and just does that, because they probably are fully aware what you want to do, but they won't tell you when they're going to do it. It's one of those momentous occasions when they're going to do it, and you think, my goodness, I've never have thought they would do that. You get an inkling that someone's going to do something, but you don't know when. That's the great part, the surprise and the suspense. Because obviously, if you're too far fetched, even with that, they'll think, oh, okay, we kind of expected that. Whereas when that happens, you think, wow, what an impact it makes on everyone.
this is it again. Going back to the Doctor Who thing, there was another episode, and he was like, "No, I can't save them." And I remember Donna says to him, "Just save one, just save one," and that's so powerful to think you could do that. And that's kind of how I feel about the veganism. I can't save all of them, but I can do my bit to save one. And if I'm doing that, and we all did that, it makes a huge difference. So.
No, good for you, Mark. Carry on what you love and what you do, what you believe in. Because otherwise, you do something, and why be contradictory? If you're going to be something and do something, and then you do the total opposite, because obviously, in that respect, you're contradicting your belief system, then, aren't you? And then it's good that you're doing that. What do you
Yeah,
think has changed more in the film industry since the pandemic?
I think the way auditions are done. I lost count before the pandemic how many times I went to castings in London, walked into a room for 1 minute, walked back out, and maybe you get a call back, maybe you don't. Whereas now it's self tapes pretty much to get you in the room. So if you're going back, you're in pretty decent chance because they wouldn't have called you in. So I would say that's the big
Yeah.
thing. And
Cool.
obviously, a lot of Zoom meetings now.
Oof, goodness, yeah. There's a lot now. If it's not Zoom, it's other things like even like with this StreamYard. But there was mainly the Zoom meetings, wasn't it, and the old Skype as well. Do you have a favorite singer apart from a favorite song? A favorite singer?
Yeah, Ginger Wildheart. I've been a fan since '93, and the fact that we started working together and now we're friends that text. It's weird because at my age now doing it doesn't feel weird because it's just the way my life's gone and it's great. But 16-year-old me would be like, what? you know. So that's really nice that I've admired someone for so long. I really love his music. I love his work ethic, and the fact that he's such a decent person too, I can call a friend is nice. Yeah.
Oh, lucky are you, Mark. Oh my goodness, wow. And you don't get that every day when you get someone like that where they do that. That's amazing. In regards to that as well, do you like working more on legs or upper body workouts?
I think we all enjoy doing upper body, but I probably enjoy doing legs more than most people. I'm very fortunate that whilst I've worked for my legs, my genetics are very good there. I have to work really hard for my upper body compared to my legs. Uh, yeah, so you look at most people in the gym, it's the other way around. They've got a great upper body and the legs are a bit lacking. Whereas I'm probably more balanced now. Whereas when I started, my legs were huge and my upper body was small, but I'm more balanced now. And I will say this: the first time I ever went to the gym properly, my friend at the time, a guy called Gareth, he was like, "Do legs, make sure you do legs." And probably thanks to him is the reason I did, and I never looked back. So I was taught right from the start. Whereas I think people go, oh, I don't want to do legs. And that's it. I've vomited doing legs in the past. But yeah, I probably prefer doing upper body on the whole. So
Oh, good on you. Or acting and even modeling. What would you say is the best parts of doing these jobs?
I think there's two things. I think meeting and working with the other creatives is always going to be pretty much the top thing for me. I've met so many amazing people through my work. And I think the other side of it is obviously you want to do that project because it's amazing, it's creative. So yeah, they kind of go hand in hand, the work you're doing and the people you meet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and lastly, to sort of wrap things up, if you were to, I know this isn't in here, but I thought I'd surprise you in it. If you was to have anyone historical
Hmm.
or present to have over dinner, who would you pick? You got two people. You can have anyone historical or in the past, or even someone present as well. Both. Who would they both be? Where would you go and what would you talk about?
Well, I probably wouldn't pick a dead person because I don't think the conversation would be very good. So, who would I talk to? Do you know what? I think someone like Sylvester Stallone would be really great because he's not just an actor. Well, he's a movie star, but he's a director, he's a writer. I really like that. I think he'd be really fascinating to talk to. And as for someone else, oh my gosh. God, you did spring this one on me.
Did you like the question though?
I like the question. Oh,
it's a juicy one, isn't it? It's a juicy question, Mark.
Who else would I like to talk to? I'd probably pick someone I don't really like so that I could see for myself. I don't know, someone like Piers Morgan or Donald Trump or Jeremy Clarkson.
I like your thinking, Mark. I like your thinking.
I just like to see, away from the TV and the cameras, what are they actually like as people? You know?
Well, this is it. You know, most people, we only see what we see, you know, and not what goes on behind. Because in reality, when the camera's off, how do you know what they're really like?
Exactly. And to some degree, none of these men are stupid. They wouldn't have got as far in life as they have if they were. But I think they're angled in some. I mean, Piers Morgan, for example, he says a few things I 100% agree with. He also hates vegans and says a lot of things that annoy me but I think he plays it up purposely. I don't think he's that inept. I don't think he's that stupid. So I'd love to actually have a proper conversation away from the cameras with someone like him. And it's like Donald Trump. I'll be honest, when he was in power, I was like not a fan. But actually, since he's come out of power, I'm thinking he was written a certain way because I think he did do what he wanted and they didn't like it. And don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a great people person. I don't think his speeches are particularly good. But I do think there's something interesting at the root of him that would be interesting to talk to him, certainly. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting, actually. You know, I'd probably be thinking, oh, I wonder what it's like. You know, like it's very intriguing. You know, as I must say, you know, it's different on and off screen, isn't it? You know, when you're asking these type of questions, and you get a different take and approach to it as well.
Actually, we might leave Stallone. I might just invite those two.
I like this. This is so funny. This is sort of changes in it. Oh my goodness. Oh, right. And then lastly, there's the most interesting one in there. I have said this on a few sort of episodes, but I thought I'd sort of see what your take on insight on it is. Lastly, is if you were stuck on an island, what 3 things would you bring with you?
I haven't got electricity. I might have to wind up record player. Dumbbells.
Yeah.
And I've got to survive on an island. I suppose a lighter. Yeah.
Oh, well, if you look at my last few episodes, Mark, there was a gentleman, I think on my it might have been even the last episode, where a gentleman in the martial arts industry, martial arts world, Renchi is Darren Stirat is participating in the UK martial arts show. And my discussion on him live was, what would he have? The same question that I put to him, like yourself. And his answer was, I know he's probably going to watch this later. He'll say, "Oh, Phil, please, you're hilarious." They'll never live it down because his students will probably be laughing about it as well. Number 1 is martial arts suit or gi. Then his belt. And thirdly, a banana. Yeah, because he likes bananas. But then we moved it on to superpowers and programs that he likes. And I said, "Do you remember superpowers?" And I thought, right, what about Banana Man in a suit on an island But then I said there was a role, because we're talking about roles here as well.
Mm.
Instead of the good version of Banana Man, he had a bad guy, badass Banana Man in a martial arts suit as well, with a Banana Man sort of outfit underneath, and a pair of yellow banana-looking nunchucks on the island. And I thought, oh my goodness! And the reaction from his students and everyone else that was watching, you can just imagine. Mark, never live it down. I said, so you're gonna, what, you think you're gonna get a part now, from Warner Brothers or from Hollywood? They go, yep, we need a man dressed up as Banana Man with a pair of banana nunchucks, stranded
No.
in an island.
It's a pitch. It's certainly a pitch.
And then a new program called Banana Island 2023. Oh my goodness! Oh wow! Instead of Love Island, Banana Island.
Oh, I got it. I got it.
Right, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for your time, Mark. It's been an enjoyable show with yourself, and great insight about your journey and sort of the little struggles that you had, and sort of bouncing back, from the pandemic and getting to where you are in the shape that you're in. Not just sort of shape wise, but also dietary wise as well. And keeping you sharp and fit. Thank you very much. It's been a humbling experience and an honor to have you on, Mark. Because it's not many sort of times when you get someone like yourself where you can talk about things behind the camera as well as being in front. Because you do get a lot of people talk about things that go in front of the camera, in their role. But you also, it's nice to hear the other perspective on both sides of the lens as well from yourself.
Yeah. It's been nice to have an open discussion.
Thank you very much. And folks, if you're not sure what's happened, I'm sure you're going in for a treat and enjoy a little journey and a taster of Mark's stories and his hobbies on the replay. Please don't forget to subscribe. And also, we're available live now on Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Thank you very much for coming on the Phil Carew Show 2.0. This is now the end of the end of episode 23. Not quite end of season 2, because no doubt there'll probably be a lot of other people coming in the next several months, telling me about their funny stories and being stranded on islands wearing a banana outfit and eating a banana at the process. Or even having someone like Donald Trump and not Sylvester Stallone and Piers Morgan. Would you like to have been stuck on an island with them, though, Mark?
No.
I thought I'd squeeze that one in there, Mark, just before. I thought you'd probably thought, Phil, you had to ask that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, no! Thank you very much once again, Mark. It's been a pleasure, and I really thoroughly enjoyed this episode with you. Thank you very much for coming on to the Phil Carew Show 2.0, and no doubt there'll probably be an update somewhere, in the foreseeable future about some other sort of roles and even sort of other things that you've got up to. If you wouldn't mind sort of coming back and giving us an update at some point one day.
Good.
Thank you very much. Right, everybody, we're gonna have to love and leave Mark. What are you gonna do now? Just before off the camera, were you gonna have another workout?
Yes, it's yeah, you got it straight away.
Oh, what are you gonna work on today, Mark?
Today,
what are you working on today?
Shoulders,
Ooh.
shoulders, abs, cardio today.
Oh, you got it there, official. See, look, he's even telling us what his exercise regime is, and there I feel pretty lucky knowing that, because sometimes people don't keep it hush hush. They don't tell you what they're working on, but Mark, as nice as he is, he's telling us what his works out are today. Right. See you later, everyone. Take care, and thank you very much for tuning in on the Phil Carew Show 2.0.